Hi, everyone. So I have a pretty cool guest today.
Sure.
So I don't know if it's my good fortune or if it's Livio Suppo's generosity. Get a little bit of introduction. Livio Suppo is an expert in motorcycle racing, i.e. managing race teams. You were the manager of the Ducati MotoGP. You created MotoGP Ducati, correct?
Yeah, basically, yes.
In 2006, 7?
No, in 2000. We started the project in 2000, then officially announced in 2001.
Okay.
And then we debuted in 2003.
Okay, and then you won the World Championship. That's it, in 2006 or
2007.
That's
the first and until a few weeks ago only title of Ducati MotoGP.
Wow, that's impressive. And now, recently though, the last year, you've been the manager of Suzuki MotoGP, which is another whole level. I mean, and we're talking the top flight of motorcycle racing, and you've managed two of the most important teams.
Well, three, because after Ducati, I went to HRC.
Yeah, of course. Was that the satellite team, or was that the...
No, it was the factory team. We won the title with Case in 2011.
Okay.
And then with Mark in 13, 14, 16, 17.
Okay, so my numbers are a little bit hazy, so this is
no
the point, but we're not here to talk about motorcycle racing. I think people need to understand that.
That's my background, but and that, of course, for me has been my life, but it's not that everybody has to knows everything.
No, I mean, essentially, you are one of the legends of motorcycle racing and things like that. So what you don't know about motorcycles and engines, I would expect, and how to manage them and how to win. And you did it really successful last year, didn't you, at Suzuki? And that...
Yeah, I mean, despite that, after a few races, we find out that the company decided to retire at the end of 2022. He still managed to do a reasonably good season, and especially in the last few races, we won 2 of the last 3. Wow. So we had a lot of fun at the end, and it was my dream to close the team with a win. And
that's amazing.
And that was something special. I think never will happen again that the company decide to quit and win the last race, because usually the company decide to quit racing when the results are not coming. So some big boss check at the numbers, see they spend a lot of money, and they do basically a bad advertising for the company, so they decide to close. In our case, it was different. When the Japanese told me that the big bosses decided to retire, it was Portimao this season, and after the race, we were leading the rider and team championship. So it was a big of a shock.
Wow.
But, anyway, happened what happened, and as I told to all the members of the team, this is a problem, but it's not one of the real problems you have to face sometimes in your life, And the real problem are the loss of somebody or a big problem with your health. So. And sometimes we forget these kind of things, and we get crazy for problems that in reality are something that you can solve, or anyway will not affect totally your life. And there's always an opportunity behind the problem. That's my motto, and we try to continue.
And I mean, so basically, I mean, there's so many questions I could ask you, and I'm sure the motorcycle fans would love me to ask you every difficult question that I could come up with, but that's not particularly my point. Maybe later on I'll ask a question or two. But one of the other things you do that not many people know unless they follow your social media maybe, and they see you on a bike, but I mean a pedal bike quite a lot, and they'll see that you're like into e-bikes, and you actually have become an investor, or probably an influencer, I don't know, in quite an important and doing successfully, I suppose, e-bike company. And that's kind of one of the things I wanted to talk to you about really today, all about electric bikes and the world of two-wheel transport turning electric. I mean, and and your experience with that. So, I mean, give me how do you start an e-bike company? I mean, how?
Basically,
it's a very
because
general question.
Yeah, I've been working as a manager for all my life, but after many years of being a manager and trying to manage the team I was working for exactly like it was my team, I thought, why you don't try to do something by yourself? You know, one thing is to be a manager, one thing is to be an entrepreneur. And I just wanted to try, you know. So I've been, honestly, it took time, years to realize what could have been a good business to develop. Until in 2000, end of 2011, unfortunately, I'm a big smoker. And I had a bet with Casey Stoner when he won the first title in 2007. Next title I win, you will quit smoking. So it happened in 2011.
Okay.
And immediately after the last race, when he got the title, Casey came back in the garden and said, now you must quit smoking. I said, okay. And so I did. And after a few months, of course, I got, I think, 8 or 10 kilos because I was eating everything. And I started doing some bicycle to lose kilos. Of course, at that age, was 2012. It was not easy for me to be regular, no? to go out every week 2 or 3 times because I was traveling a lot. So even if I tried desperately to try to have a good form, it was basically impossible. Then suddenly one day I was out with a friend, Stefano Migliorini, that is a former champion of mountain bike, BMX. I mean, he's not a human, he's a machine, you know him.
He's still a legend now, even.
Yeah, he's a legend, and he's, I mean, he has bicycle in his DNA, you know, he's really fast. And of course, to go out, if you're not super top trained, to go out with people like that, you kill yourself. Yeah. And during one of these tours, there was a guy with an e-mountain bike. And he let me try. And I said, fine, this is the future. I mean, so I rented for a week, one bicycle. And honestly, the first real tour I did with the e-mountain bike, I thought, why not all mountain bike has the engine? Because just change the world of mountain bike. Mountain bike is a great sport, but you need to be really fit to do it properly. Otherwise, okay, you can go around in some area where the hills are not too deep, but if you want to go properly, you need to be a kind of athlete. And when you're around 50 and you don't have time to train on a regular basis, it means that you go out and you suffer like a dog every time, or you use an e-mountain bike where you can suffer depending on how much you want to suffer, you know, because the different level of assistance makes you in the position to choose how much you want to push. And I thought that this was something very, very clever. And I like to say, like the legends say, that Mr. Porsche was looking around for a sports car and didn't find anything he likes, and he did it, and he did the 911. And I like, and I'm a big fan of Porsche, so I like this story, and say, let's say that Stefano and myself decided that it was time to do our e-mountain bike. It means I convinced Stefano and 2 other of our actual partners that are 2 entrepreneurs to start a new company. So in 2016, the company was born, and in 2017, we started selling e-bikes. So now it's 5 years.
I mean, it's quite a challenge to start a company from nothing, because you've got to, first of all, you've got to design a product that everybody's going to like. Second of all, you've got to source all the components and build the thing and follow quality control. I mean, how was it a baptism of fire? Was it, or was it as easy as managing a MotoGP team?
No, well, first of all, without Stefano, it would have been impossible. I mean, I had the idea to do the company, but without Stefano, Pinuccio and Sebastiano, the other 2 partners, would have been impossible, because all of us has given to the company what they know to do, you know.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, the bicycle itself is Stefano bike. Because Stefano is the only one that of the partners that has the knowledge of the world, because Stefano, after being an athlete at international level, has been working since many years in the bike industries. And so he has been many times in Taiwan. He has a lot of connection in Taiwan, because like it or not, our world, I mean, the bicycle world is based a lot in Taiwan. I would add, unfortunately, because with the COVID situation, we all have suffered a lot. And so with the Stefan experience, it was possible to do reasonably quickly the new bike, because we started the company. I think we signed the documents in April 2016, if I well remember, and we show the bike to the world at the end of 2016. Of course, it was still not the real bike, was you know, a prototype made with mix of aluminium and rapid prototyping.
Okay.
Enough to do a video with Tony Bow.
Wow.
That was our testimonial, because again, we said before, everybody add something, and what I was able to add was my connection in the motorcycle industries. And I was and I'm friend of Tony Bow, that is for me a kind of a legend of a motorcycle, because now he has 30 titles, because he won in the last 15 years, every single year, the indoor and outdoor trial championship. He's a super nice guy. He comes from the BMT, so trial bicycle. And it was, you know, I could have asked Dani Pedrosa or Marc Marquez, that at the time was my rider, to be our testimonial, but I thought it was better to have a less popular testimonial, but more real, you know. I mean, the millions of fans that follow on Instagram, for example, Mark, many are young girls in love with Mark.
Oh, wow.
Target are people that likes off-road. And another things we start thinking since the beginning is that we are a new brand. We are a mix of bicycle because of Stefano, and motorcycle because of myself. Why we don't try to speak more with the motorcycle fans? Because if you look at the moment, many of the e-mountain bike clients comes from off-road motorcycle. Yeah. And it's a reference, because at the end of the day, it's more and more difficult to be able to use a motorcycle off-road, except you go on a motocross circuit. The e-bike is much easier to bring around. You can put inside your car if you don't have a proper trailer or whatever. With the motorcycle, this is impossible. You don't have insurance. You don't have, I mean, it's much easier. And it is more or less everywhere legal, while with the motorcycle is more or less everywhere illegal now. Yeah. So many people that has been doing enduro for many years with the motorcycle switch to a mountain bike. It is not exactly the same, but let's say that you have a lot of similar feeling, and you still enjoy, especially downhill, freedom of riding in a nice single track.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's quite an interesting point, because you focused on the motorcycle as part, you've used that world as part of your growth, the way you grow and promote it. And also, but that's brought along something quite positive, actually, which is the automotive point of view in the bicycle industry, because the bicycle industry can be a little bit Wild West with the way it operates. So something I've noticed with the brand, which we haven't mentioned, which we should mention, which is called THOK.
By the way, we realized after that in Italian we call it THOK, but in reality is THOK for you. So anyway, it worked anyway.
So, but one of the things you've managed to do is you haven't done year by year changes. So you haven't had each year a new model for the same bike. You've sort of done more of a rolling changes. So when there's something new to bring to the market, you bring something new to market.
This is something again that with Stefano, that has more experience in this world. Clearly, if the big companies change, they have a, let's call model year. Every season they change something in the bikes, even if it's the same, basically the same model. They change the color, they change something. And this, of course, is good to increase the sales, because you give to the market something new. On the other side, in long term, reduce the value of the goods you buy, and also if you buy a bicycle not at the beginning when they launch it, basically you have a bicycle that is old after a few months you have it, and it's not good. So we thought it was better trying to keep the same model a little bit longer. So let's say now we 2.5, 3 years we can manage. And usually this is the time where, for example, Shimano introduced something new with the engine. But we felt that if the engine is always, we started with the 8000 was the first Shimano, correct? It lasts a few years before they introduced the EP8. And so we are trying to keep this, and this honestly has been at the end a winning decision, because keeps higher the value of the first bike. And I think also the people realize that the company has a more serious approach. You know, we know actually the e-mountain bike are quite expensive, and so it is a kind of investment for the people that buy it. And I think if they realize that the company try to keep the value of the product high is good.
And in fact, what's happened in the last few years is other bicycle companies have now started to copy this model because of the component shortage that's occurred in the world.
In the last few years, the component situation has been a disaster, has been forcing not only bicycle, also car industries to slow down the speed of how quickly they change the cars. For example, the new 992 should have been out now and has been postponed for at least 1 year. Because of course, if somebody is waiting for a car for 1 year, and this is actually what you wait for a new Porsche now, and when you receive it, immediately you find out it is already old, and you have spent more than 100,000 euro, sure, you're not happy, and probably it's the last Porsche you buy, you know? So let's say that this crazy situation has probably helped everybody to realize that the market, everything in the world is getting crazy, you know, everything needs to be more quick, more change, more easy, more quickly. At the end of the day, you cannot always live like that. I think it's better to keep a little bit more down the things and appreciate more what you have, not always trying to look for something new.
It's true. And also, though, something else that I want to add on to your brand. So you started off this base brand, THOK, and then you've kind of now linked up a bit with Ducati. And now you have, basically, if anyone wants to ride a Ducati e-bike, although it's its own models with its own specifications and everything, it's actually got your basis in that product. Is that correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, everything started at the beginning of 2018. When Claudio Domenicali, I've been working with Claudio for 11 years when I was in Ducati, so of course we know each other very well. He saw the bike that was has been just launched, and they called me and said, I like the bike, but we don't do something together. And then we start speaking, and we launched in end of 2018 the first Ducati MIG RR, that was basically our bicycle with a different cover for the battery and different colors and different components, very top components, and was a success. So after that we start doing also other models, and now we also introduced, that is for the first time basically an e-road that is branded Ducati, and we don't have in our line. It means is a real Ducati bike, you know, is produced by us, but there's not the same bike with THOK brand. Is just a Ducati bike. So now we have 3 different models with Ducati and 3 different models with THOK.
And it's interesting, Ducati, for example, they're available across the States as well. You can go into any Ducati dealership and find one of these e-bikes on display. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. While as THOK, we are now trying to go stronger abroad, again, because at the beginning we were too small. And let's say in the last 2 years, it was impossible for us to open new market because basically the e-bike that we received were not enough to cover the needs of our traditional market. Of course, is Italy, with something in Germany, Switzerland, France, but basically we had no bicycle enough to make our clients already happy, you know. So now that the situation finally changed and it's easier to receive the bike, we are start now trying to open new markets like America and other stuff. In UK we are already present, but this was basically a problem of a number of bikes available.
So I mean, so going from literally an idea now to start of moving into a global bike company, I mean, that's cool. Is that your pension plan, should we say? Is that your idea for the future? Like, let's just do an e-bike company, give up on the, sorry, I don't want to insult your age there.
But, you know, you never know in your life. For example, this season, after 4 years without being in MotoGP, Suzuki called me, and at the end, I've been thinking a little bit and then say, you know what, at the end, this is my word. If I have the chance to come back, and Suzuki is a great brand. I mean, we all at our age, you're younger than me, but let's say if you're not a millennium, you know, we grew up with the heroes like Kevin Schwantz, Barry Sheen, who were riding Suzuki, you know. My first real motocross bike was a Suzuki RM back in 1982, I think.
Yeah.
My first car was a Suzuki LJ800, basically the actual Jimny, you know.
Okay.
So I have a lot of good memories with Suzuki brand, and honestly, I enjoyed a lot working again in this world. So the bicycle remained there. As I said before, the CEO of the company is Stefano. So Stefano, that is daily involved in the company. I'm more involved, let's say, in strategic and the other general things, you know. But I enjoy a lot.
Does the motorbike experience that you've had, does that really help a lot in design, in coming in towards deciding the destination of the e-bike company? Has that really helped? So your experience, so your experience in the motorbike world, has that really helped with understanding the destination of the e-bike world, or is it a completely different thing? Because this is going to lead me on to the next questions, which we're going to talk about.
It's completely different, because at the end of the day, I've been working in motorcycle industries, but only in racing. I've never been involved in normal production. So I have no experience in dealers, no experience in commercial promotion, nothing. I've been just working for racing. Let's say that anyway. I think when you have an experience as a manager, you can adapt this experience to basically any kind of a different field, you know. Of course, you are more specialized in something, but at the end of the day, is a question of organization and approach. I think you can, if you can run a MotoGP team, you can run also something else as well.
I mean, can I ask a question? Is it stressful running a MotoGP team? It might sound like a stupid question because everybody's sort of got this glamorous idea, but
no, it is, and it depends. I mean, I've been lucky enough to work always for companies, for factory teams, and in the factory teams, the target is to win the title. No. So of course there is stress because okay, at the beginning in Ducati, of course, in 2003 when we debuted, we didn't think about winning the title. But already after a couple of years, that was our target, and we were good enough to reach it in just 5 years. That was, I think, again, is a kind of miracle. Never happened before that the company joined the top class and win the title after only 5 years. So of course it's stressful. On top of this, you work with riders that are usually people with a big ego, that, like it or not, are the most important part of the job. I mean, in motorcycle racing, like I believe also in bicycle racing, you can have the best bicycle or the best motorcycle, but the rider is the one that makes the real difference. And so everything goes around these guys. Plus you have, let's say, about 40-45 people that travel around the world for a lot of time. Wow. This season we had 21 races. Next year they will have 22. It means you spend a lot of days around the world, always with the same people. So you need to have a good atmosphere, because if not, it's a disaster, you know. Somebody is in single room, but most of the team is in double room. You know, one thing is to do an holiday of a week, but if you spend more than 100 days a year sharing the room with somebody that you don't like, it's really tough, you know. So of course is a demanding job, is a job that if the results are good, everything is paid back. I give you an example. This season, as I said before, we started very well. Then we had the announcement, and difficult to say if it was because of the announcement or just some bad luck with the accident of Alex in Barcelona, that when Nakagami smashed him and at the first corner, and then he basically didn't race in Barcelona, in Sachsenring, and also in Assen he was injured. And then we had something similar with Johan in Austria. So it's been a difficult season, especially mid-season, and results were not coming anymore. And at that point, you start thinking, you know what, we retire, but if you have to come racing and finish fighting for 8 or 9, I don't find the motivation, honestly speaking. But because I've been lucky enough, as I said before, to work for a company that has been very competitive. I remember the most successful season was 2014 for me, when Mark won the first 10 races in a row.
Wow.
And the 11th, he didn't win, and won Danny, that was his teammate. So basically our team won the first 11 races in a row. So basically more than half the championship, every single weekend we had to celebrate the victory. And I remember at that time, I always said to the people, we need to celebrate, because when you win so much, a win looks like it's something normal, no? In reality, a win at that level is always something very special. And it's when you win so much, it's difficult to keep alive this feeling of fuck, we did something special. That we felt very well in reality in Phillip Island this season and in Valencia this season.
I mean, for me, we have actually something in common. Like, I used to work as a photographer for Suzuki before they retired the first time. So I have another question actually. Do you think they'll come back again? Because they did it last time, and I was like, no.
And this time, if they come back to Dorna and they say, we want to come back, probably Dorna, we say, sorry, enough. I don't know, it's difficult. You know, the world is changing a lot. My feeling is that racing for the Japanese company is not anymore important like it was in the past. When they first start racing in the 60s, they had zero heritage, zero reputation. You know, they were, at that time, the motorcycle industry was European. And there was these Japanese companies coming, and they come to the race and they come to the market, and they had to build up their credibility. At the moment, they are a global company. Basically, for all of them, except maybe Yamaha, motorcycle is not the main business, because for Honda, for Suzuki, for Kawasaki, the motorcycle is just a small part of the total business. They produce millions, especially Honda, millions of two wheels. And I said two wheels because most of them are basically scooters. So probably some big boss can start thinking, and at the end of the day, racing for Honda or for Yamaha or for Suzuki is not as crucial as for Ducati. Ducati sells only high price and the sports bike. It's like Ferrari. Can you imagine Ferrari without Formula One? Probably wouldn't be the same. If Ferrari is in the stock exchange, I'm pretty sure that if tomorrow they will announce they will retire Formula One, the stock exchange will drop down a lot, sure.
I mean, they even back in the past, Ferrari were running their Formula One team despite making massive losses as a company. So, I mean, it was always there. And running a race team, as you know, is a super expensive.
Yeah, basically Enzo Ferrari decided to sell first to Ford and then finally to Mr. Agnelli, basically because he didn't care too much. I mean, he was producing road car just to have the money to go racing. That was Enzo Ferrari. He didn't really care about the product. I mean, of course he cared, but the real target was the racing. Yeah. And but racing is a kind of addiction. If you start living that feeling, it's difficult to forget.
So this brings us on to an interesting point. So when you think about your experience now with an electric bike company, and then you look at MotoGP racing, and then you look at the sort of modern prospect of laws and things changing, and then and Suzuki, for example, making the decision, hey, we're not going to do racing anymore. Will electric MotoGP racing become the premier class? I know it already has MotoGP E.
Yeah.
And Ducati, for example, are now in charge of the.
Yes, is a championship that started a few years ago, I think in 2020. So far, the motorcycle was the same for everybody. It was made by an Italian company, and I don't remember the name in this moment. And from next year, everybody will race on a Ducati. It's a kind of, let's say, experiment. My feeling is that Dorna saw what happened in Formula One, where at that time Eccleston didn't get from the federation the right to organize a Formula E championship. Yeah. So it was organized by a Spanish guy, and especially at the beginning was a big success, attracted a lot of companies. Some companies quit the work racing in the EWS, for example, to go racing like Audi, Porsche. Yeah. And as far as I understood, because I don't follow it too much, is going a little bit down. But I think Carmelo Espeleta at that time, that is the boss of Dorna, that is the organizer of the championship, thought that was better anyway to have the right to organize also the electric motorcycle championship. So at the moment, it's a kind of experiment, as I said. I think with the actual technology for the batteries, is not enough to totally replace MotoGP, honestly speaking, because the races, to have a motorcycle that anyway is quite heavy, because if I'm not wrong, they are around 230 kilos, 240.
And the dry weight of a normal MotoGP bike is like 150, is that correct?
56 or something like that.
Yeah.
And so, and anyway, the races can last maybe 10 laps, 8 laps, something like that.
Oh dear.
That is less than half of a MotoGP race. So with actual technology, I don't think would be possible to do totally replace MotoGP. Maybe in 10 years' time, there will be a new technology with the batteries, and the same capacity will be much smaller and lighter. And then who knows? Maybe yes. Hopefully, I'm too old to see it. Because
you love the engine sound too much.
You know, I grew up in the 60s. I remember in the 70s, my father bring me to watch the practice of Formula One in Monza. And when we arrived, the car was on track. And I still remember the sound of the 12-cylinder Ferrari. That was not an engine. It was a kind of wild animals cry. It was unbelievable. And I think if you grow up like that, and you know, when we were kids, we used to put the postcard in the wheels of the bicycle to have some noise, you know. That's my generation. I think for me, the sound of a sport car is a very important part of the experience of driving a sports car. Mm-hmm. And I never drove an electric sports car. I know they have unbelievable performance. The 0-100 acceleration they are unbeatable. But do you really get so exciting to do 0-100? What make, at least for me, what is good is to have the feeling of the acceleration between one corner and the other, change gear, the sound, the downshift, you know. these kind of things. So maybe the new generation will not care about the sound, and they will just care about the speed and the acceleration. But for me, it would be a little bit sad.
So, I mean, we're talking at least another 10, maybe even 20 years before the whole world would shift to full electric motorbike racing, maybe.
If the fashion of electric will continue. I mean, I think electric mobility can be very important for the environment. But honestly speaking, I think it's difficult to believe at the moment that electric mobility can replace totally everything. Because there's so many things behind that at the moment looks to me that the politicians are not thinking. If all the cars in the world will be electric, we will need a lot of power, electric power to recharge. You have a huge problem with exhaust batteries. There will be a big problem to find the components to build up the batteries. So are we sure that there is enough lithium around the world to continue forever to do this kind of things? Honestly, I don't know. I remember when I was young, it looks like in few years the petroleum would have finished. You remember?
Yeah.
We grew up with this kind of nightmare of there won't be petroleum and it will be a disaster. In reality, I'm almost quite old and still looks like there will be petroleum enough to continue. So now with the electrics, it seems to me a little bit kind of fashion. I believe that for the big, especially for big towns, electric mobility can be very important, because when you have millions of vehicles concentrate in a small area, for sure the emission is a big issue. But actual internal combustion engine have a level of emission that is absolutely low. And when you drive from one town to the other, and so of course the traffic, the concentration of vehicle is not so high, I don't think this could be a big problem. Anyway, think about, we speak a lot about cars and motorcycle. Also motorcycle now need to be Euro 5. And we don't speak so much about trucks, big boats, airplane. A lot of transportation in Europe of goods is made with the trucks. Train, it could be much better, but because we are used to have, and of course with the truck it's easier, it's quicker, but in terms of emission is worse. So it seems to me that the approach to this kind of problem is a little bit strange. Having said that, for sure is, as I said before, for the urban mobility, electric are very, very clever.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the noise levels, honestly, just as an example, if I'm outside my house, there's a bus stop every morning, the bus is there and the engine is vibrating and you feel it through the whole house. Whereas that's electric, you wouldn't feel that, you know, it would, the urban environment improves, you know, so from the noise, from a noise point of view. I mean, if it's a MotoGP bike outside, we're not going to go and open it and have a look, but
so this is in UK or in Italy?
This is in Italy. So I actually had the good fortune last year to have the Miglia, which is the 1,000-mile car race, actually come past my door, which was incredible. And I just spent all day watching like hundreds of cars.
Well, one thing is the sound of an old racing car. One thing is a bus.
Yeah, but they're just passing by my door. So I mean, that was the best fortune I've ever had in my life, to be living in a place where they're on the route of one of those incredibly historic rallies. But yeah, interesting. So do you think then the electric mobility is going to stay micro mobility? So it's going to stay bicycle, it's going to stay maybe the electric scooter around town, it's going to stay in that world there, and the sort of the MotoGP, that world will stay. I mean, you know, the high performance bikes, they're going to keep selling them. That's going to be something which just stays on its own, becomes a niche, and it's just something literally to watch and enjoy. I mean,
as I said before, it's very difficult to predict. You see also Formula One, they are trying to, they have these cars and they try to show that they have something electric. But this is also a marketing reason, because at the moment, to attract sponsor, you need to be as much as possible green, because otherwise they don't like it. So how much is a real need and how much is at the end of the day a need that we created? It's difficult to say. Again, I believe that if we speak about motorcycle, a road sport motorcycle with electric engine at the moment makes no sense, because if you do something that has a good performance, it weighs a lot and will have not such a good range. Yeah. So I think, as I said before, I think with actual battery level and how you say,
charging.
Yeah, it's almost impossible, but who knows in the future? I think for at least 10 years, MotoGP will remain as it is now. They will start using in 2024, I think. I don't remember. Fuel with less, with a certain percentage of not fossil components, stuff like that. And this is another way to Porsche is investing a lot in this biofuel, and I really hope they will find something smart, because like it or not, the internal combustion engine are I think difficult to totally replace.
So interestingly, Porsche also bought an electric bicycle company, motor maker, so-called Fazua, which and why do you think they did that? I've never actually spoken to anyone at Porsche. What do you think they did that for?
That all the Volkswagen group is pushing a lot on the electric side. Probably also, of course, they have been influenced maybe also by the famous Dieselgate. So I think my feeling is that they just want in this moment to show that they are very green. I think they already announced that within a few years they will have most of the cars in all the brand range electric. And that I believe that they also, because the electric is start from some kind of mobility on two wheels, they decide to invest also in the bike industry. And this is good, because so far, usually a not specialized brand like Ducati with us, but I mean, I can give you many examples. If you see a bicycle with a motorcycle or car brand on it, is basically a kind of licensing. It means is a frame made by somebody else with Ducati, or I mean, with a motorcycle or car brand on it. So Porsche is the first that really believe in this world enough to buy Fazua, to announce that will not only do the small engine that Fazua does, but they will start doing also, let's say, normal e-mountain bike engine. And they do a cooperation with a famous company, what's the name, THOK, or something like that.
Yeah.
The Netherlands, I think.
Yeah. Oh, you mean PON, with PON?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, PON. That's the big conglomerate of bike companies in.
And they will produce Porsche e-bike. Again, Porsche at the moment, they have a couple of products that are with the Porsche brand, but Rotfield does it. So it means that the Porsche board believe that two wheels are the future also for a brand like Porsche. This is good for us.
So one thing actually which moves me on to the good for the future and also good for biking is that the community side of THOK is quite important as a brand. And I mean, everyone's talking about the politics and making it green and everything, but what people probably outside of Italy are unaware of is you have a big sort of get together every year of everyone from your brand, and it's like no other company does this, and
this is
it's quite exceptional, and it's incredibly good fun.
But again, I usually in my life I've been always trying to watch around what was good and trying to bring it in the world I was at the time. So for example, when I was in Ducati, I had the luck to work with the Federico Minoli, that at that time was the CEO. And Federico Minoli is a marketing genius, really very, very clever. He has been many years in America. He has a great approach. He's a great guy, and he's a marketing genius. So when they, with the TPG found, bought the company from the Castiglioni family, the company was really almost bankrupt. And the first things he did was the museum. So invest money doing have you been to the Ducati?
Yes, it's very impressive. Yeah.
And this was the first time that Federico did. And at that time, the company, believe me, was almost bankrupt. Then second things he did was to organize this World Ducati Week. It means a big reunion of all Ducatisti that are the owners of Ducati in Misano circuit. And I think last year they did, not this season, they did again after 2 or 3 years because of the COVID. And I don't remember the number, but there was a lot of people around the world that joined to share the passion for Ducati. And I remember very well that in Ducati, we were proud that most of the people, usually Ducati is not the first bike you buy.
Yeah.
But if you start buying a Ducati, usually you buy another Ducati. While with Japanese brand, it's much more easy that if the new R1 is better than GSX, the Yamaha is better than Suzuki, or the new Honda is better, you change from one brand to the other because there's less loyalty to the brand. So having been working 11 years in Ducati, I learned this thing. So when we start THOK, I tried to pass this kind of experience. So we have the THOKers, we call THOKers the owner of THOK. We organize the THOK tribe, that is basically the same concept. And we started that we were, I think, 60 people the first year. And because we started selling the bike in 17, and at the end of 17, we already did this kind of reunion. And then this season, we were more than 300.
It was quite incredible. I was there, and we took over an entire sports pavilion hall for lunch. It was quite incredible.
For such a young brand, because in 5 years, usually you are a baby, it's really incredible. And this is, we try to show that the company is made with passion. It's, we are not stupid. We know at the moment, the bicycle industry is comparing with the motorcycle or car industries is very difficult because there are thousands of brands. One of the problems we had at the beginning was to find the name, because any name we had in mind, we check, and there was a name that was same or very similar because there are so many different brands. And maybe in Italy, they are not imported, but somewhere else they are, so you cannot use it. And we wanted to call the company Gram, because in our dialect means bad, cattivo. But then we tried to register, and the office that we used to register the brand saying, sorry, it's impossible because in the same category, there is already SRAM. And so the sound is too similar, you cannot use it. And finally we came up with THOK, because THOK in our dialect is a piece. It's a nice THOK. It means it's a nice piece of and so we wanted to have something that sounds like our dialect, but we added the H and the K, so it looks more international. But it was very difficult to find the name, because there are so many different brands.
So just to add on, your dialect is from the Turin area, is that correct?
Yes. Piedmont. Piedmont is very similar. Of course, in different area of Piedmont change, but let's say that the language is Piedmont. That is, has a lot of words similar to French. Because, in Piedmont, there was the Savoy, that was the king of Italy and was the king of Italy. The Savoy is also in France now.
Exactly. So that's just for the the listeners to understand. So anyway, well, Livio, you've really given me quite an impressive lot of information here. It feels like I'm speaking to somebody from the automotive world, which in the bike world is unusual, and bringing that experience in, I think, is a really valuable thing.
Thank you. I want to ask you a question. I'd like to share with your followers what they think. Okay. What do you think about e-bike racing?
Ooh, there's an interesting one. I mean, the people that, honestly, from when I've posted stories about e-bike racing and things like that, I tend to find that the viewers and the listeners don't really, the numbers aren't very high on the on the stories that I publish. I've actually personally been the sort of, let's call it the anchor man for the UCI electric cross-country racing. I was that for a while, and that was an interesting experience because the riders who were doing it, they were very serious. I mean, racing is racing. It doesn't really matter whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. I think the biggest problem with e-bike racing is the power to weight ratio problem, because if you're like me, you'll weigh 200 pounds, 90 kilos, on a bike which is limited, because they all follow a specification of the law. If they're limited at 250 watts and whatever, then a lightweight rider is going to do better. I mean, up a hill, they're going to be faster. And I think until they, in my opinion, until they've created a sort of a level playing field with power to weight ratio, that's my key idea. I think it's difficult to say which direction it should go in. So Bosch have just launched a brand new race motor from, and they've done that for a reason. I mean, when I was at the events, I would watch, they would.
The one at Garda?
Yes, that's it. They would, the new Bosch race motor, it's called the GXR or CXR. And it's got this race software in it. They've changed inside, and basically it's really powerful. It's almost uncontrollable unless you're a good rider in race mode, because it's really that it gives you a lot of power in some very technical trails that can get out of hand. You know, you need to have the right bike and the right skills to use it. And so they're definitely pushing in that idea. They're saying, hey, we're ready for proper racing to take off. But I think the bicycle sports world, especially in the States, is very it's very focused on a mountain bike is a mountain bike, and the best racing is still UCI Downhill World Cup. And unless you can, it's a bit like MotoGP, unless you can mimic MotoGP in electric.
Yeah, I have my idea about this. I think that racing and e-mountain bike has nothing to do. What I mean is that if you want to race against the clock, you need to be super trained. Average target of e-mountain bikers, they buy an e-mountain bike because they cannot train every day.
Yeah.
So I spoke with several organizers of racing, and I said, why you don't think about something totally different? I mean, think about the target of e-mountain bike. There's a lot of people that bought a e-mountain bike in the last few years. It means there's a lot of potential people that could like to put a number on the bike and enjoy a day with friends doing something different. But it cannot be against a clock. It could be something more like, let's do a nice tour together. We have to do it in 2 or 3 together. We must start and finish all together. And during the tour, maybe there is some navigation, some special stage where you don't have to touch the ground or something like that, but never against the clock. And this allows you, even if you are not super trained, to have fun, enjoy, and use an e-bike as it can be used. For example, with an e-mountain bike, we know you can go uphill in paces where with a normal bike, you cannot do, even if you are a super athlete. So all this kind of stuff are much more close to what is the spirit of the people that usually buy a mountain bike, e-mountain bike. And I don't understand why nobody, I think Bosch did something like that at Garda.
Yeah, they've tried something along that line in July. I think they do it, if it's in Garda or up near Mont Blanc area, they tend to do something going.
You know, something, if you translate a race in a kind of event, where you basically can enjoy your e-mountain bike. You can still have a kind of fight with your friends because the best can still win something, but not that you have to go full gas for 1 hour, because full gas 1 hour doesn't matter if you have or not the engine. You need to be trained. Your heart will be like this.
Yeah.
And so I think this is a potential event to develop.
I would agree, because the community side of e-biking needs to be built upon. I think that's the key, because it's a great equalizer as well. You can be untrained, you can be super trained, and you can ride together. And that's
a race like that. It doesn't matter if you are 20 years old, super trained, or 58 like me with some train. If is a question of navigation, spatial stage in which you need to have a good balance or a good skill to go up, maybe the experience is better than the training. And then you can put much more people at the same level and have fun. Because at the end of the day, I wrote many years ago on a website an article that was very interesting. He said that the difference between a normal mountain bike racing and e-bike is the same as between ski and a snowboard. With ski, there's a lot of different specialties, no? The downhill, the slalom, the giant slalom, the super slalom, super G. Snowboard, there are races over snowboard, but most of the people that go snowboard, they just like to go with friends in the nature, enjoy. They have different clothing, they have different lifestyle, you know? And I think it's true, e-bikes, e-mountain bikes are much more close to snowboard than to ski. You know what I mean? I mean, it's more kind of different things.
I think I can agree with that, especially because if you look at the sort of world of snowboarding, I mean, the famous characters like Shaun White, people like that, they were doing a half pipe. I mean, that's what they did most of the time. They became famous for sort of the fun thing rather than the speed. I mean, it was doing technical tricks. It's super amazing watching him ride, but it's like at the same time, it wasn't against the clock. It was fun.
Yeah. So I think this could be something to develop in the future. Maybe my next step.
Interesting. Well, I mean, if you want to try a race, I could be on your team with you. We can do
we need to do the event. We should do. But honestly, another big problem with the e-mountain bike racing, MotoGP or a superbike or the supercross, if you race there, you get huge coverage.
Yeah.
So if you are a brand that wants to promote yourself, KTM, to be strong in America, went and won the Supercross, okay? Because Supercross is a big event. All respect for the actual e-mountain bike races, you go there, you win the race, nobody knows.
No, exactly. And honestly,
it does make sense for a small company like us, if you want to do a proper team with proper riders, a van to go to the races, a mechanic or two, there are 10,000s of euro expenses.
Exactly.
How much is the return? Just few people follow at the moment. Do you know who won the EWS?
Honestly, I don't know, and I should know.
You know what I mean?
I mean, all I know is
normal people. Who knows?
I mean, all I know, and that's only because I'm super deep in the industry, is that the most popular bike on the electric mountain bike series is actually the Lapierre GLP2, but that was designed by Nico Vulliot, and
it has a Bosch engine.
It has a Bosch engine, but it's a very specific bike, and it's like, I mean, I love it. It's an amazing bike, but it's like not for everyone, you know. Okay. But it's designed for racing, and they made a limited number of them, and they're like gold trying to find one now. And you know, I have you know, the frame secondhand prices are sort of almost the same as they are brand new, and it's like, you know, so but I only know that the French guys mainly, they all have those bright bikes and they're all racing and they're all doing quite well, but they're also all very lightweight. They're all like 55, 60 kilo riders, you know, they're sort of. Yeah. But I have one more question. What do you think about Valentino Rossi? He has an e-bike and he's made an e-bike, which I have yet to test yet. I haven't been sent, and it's like another, I mean, do you think Valentino Rossi really likes e-bikes, or is that marketing? What do you think? There's a controversial question.
You know, VR46, that is the Valentino brand, is a very strong brand.
Yeah.
So there was a company that believed that to do an e-mountain bike with this brand is a good idea, and they start the project. At the moment, it's still not available. They launched it 1 year ago in Milan show, but at the moment, it's still not in the market. Is a total new I mean, it's a company that has no experience in this kind of bicycle. So sure, honestly speaking, is more a marketing tool. I mean, you can say also the Ducati things is the same, but it is, I think it's different. First of all, when Domenicali asked me to do, we were brand new, and basically only in Italy, somebody knew what the hell was a THOK MIG. Yeah. It means that outside Italy, that looks like a real Ducati bike, because few people knew that was based on a different brand bike. And anyway, there's many common things between Ducati and our company, because we both are small in our different market. We both try to do something that is high level. We like the details, the quality, and so I think it's true, it's marketing. We are offering to the Ducatisti a bicycle with the brand they love on it. It's not just the brand. Ducati, before working with us, they were working with a much bigger company, I don't want to mention. Basically was an open mold frame painted in red with Ducati written on it. And it was not a success at all. At the moment, our bicycle with the Ducati bicycle made by THOK are working well. So that makes a difference. You know, even if basically,
I mean, it's a high quality product. Yeah. I mean, it's got the top of everything.
By the TK1RR, that is the TK1 with the Ducati logo, has a total different layout with the polished aluminium, all in front and rear. I mean, it's a super bike.
At a reasonable price as well, I have to say. It is actually at a reasonable price, because a lot of bike companies have taken, I think, a bit of advantage out of the public in some ways.
Okay, one more question me to you.
Okay, go on.
The level of the prices?
Oh, that's a difficult one. I think the entry level markets are around, and I'm going to call it entry level because, so let's say 2,000.
What do you think is an entry level for a full suspension bike?
3,000 to 3,500, but that's still quite expensive. So
with 3,000 euro full e-bike,
you don't get a very good product.
You need to, after a while, you change the brakes, you change
exactly. So it depends on your user. It depends on
I'm worried, because I think we all are losing a little bit the sense of reality. Sometimes I see a new bike, they launch a new bike, carbon here, 11 or 12,000 euro.
Well, the latest one I had to test, which I'm not going to mention the brand name, but people asked me, how much is this bike? And I said, oh yeah, it's about 13,000. And I was just like sweating when I was saying it. Anyway, I actually checked the price. It was 15,500.
Joking.
So I was just like, okay. Anyway, it's an incredible piece of, there's nothing wrong with it. It's perfect. I mean, I literally
I mean, bicycle world, not only e-bike, also bicycle world. There are some road bike
with no suspension that cost that. Well, why is that?
I mean, full carbon, but it costs 13, 15,000 euros. That is, I mean, they can sell a car for that price. And the car is a much more complicated piece of engineering. So unfortunately, because everybody thinks that the bicycle company makes a lot of money, unfortunately, the real problem is that the cars are very expensive.
Yeah.
And because, as we said before, there's thousands of different bicycle brands, but there are very few components brands. Yeah. Very few that produce the brakes, very few that produce the engine, suspension. You can count on one hand.
That are reliable as well, because you need reliability in a very difficult.
Good brands are really few.
Yeah.
And that's why at the end of the day, I think they are taking a little bit too much advantage of the situation.
I mean, you guys with your THOK TK01, which is a sort of enduro style bike, that comes in, when I checked, it was like 4,400 or 4,500.
It's below 5,000 at the end.
And as a product, for the quality performance price, it's excellent quality performance price. And that's something I always said about it. It's really, you feel like a solid product, and good quality pricing is, compared to the rest of the market for the specifications, it's very good.
One of the reasons is because we sell both online and in shops.
Yeah.
We have a little bit different commercial strategy. So we don't try to sell 100 bicycles to a shop, giving them a lot of margin, because we know that this will push them to do discount. We prefer to keep the price down, to give less margin to the dealer, but they cannot do discount because their margin is not enough to do another discount. And again, this is something that at the end of the day, we believe as a more serious approach. Of course, you cannot become the new Specialized doing like that, but we don't want to. My dream is, Enzo Ferrari used to say that you need to produce one car less than what the market asks to keep the value high, no? And of course, doing like that, you will never become Ford. You remain Ferrari, but our dream is not to be the new Ford of bicycle. Our dream is to be a small company that produce something special, and our clients are clearly the one that they like to have something different. There are people that likes to have a Specialized because it's a famous brand. You can see a lot around and you feel comfortable, because if many people buy a Specialized, it means Specialized is good bike. But then there are some clients that are just the opposite. And if everybody is a Specialized, they want to have something different because they want to be different. And so this is our target. And I think so far we are achieving our target.
No, I mean, I think actually at the 5,000 to 5,500 price range, dollars or euros, if you're hitting that on point with a top product, that's where I think you've got longevity in the product, quality, you've got somebody prepared to probably pay for that as well. And it's a price where people will definitely like, and it is where the market will concentrate, I think. And the high-end products, I think your Ducati TK01R are something like 8.5 or something, which is actually pretty reasonable for considering the quality of components. Because if you have to go and build that bike,
and then you mean the one with the downhill fork?
Yeah, that one. Yeah, that's interesting as well, because I mean, again, you're appealing to the motocross world out there, and that makes a difference. That bike, I've ridden that double crown fork, and it's that bike, you just want to go fast. I mean,
and again, we don't do a THOK model with that fork, because my feeling is that bike that looks almost like a motorcycle is more attractive for a Ducati fans more than for a normal bicycle fan. I mean, if you are a biker, you know that to really use a fork like that, you need to almost kill yourself in a downhill.
No, it's incredible actually how fast that thing goes. I mean, when I'd rode it in Andalo, I was doubling everything, and I was just like, oh wow, this is really fast. I need to slow down. I'm not paid to risk my life here. So
The problem is that, for example, for the way I like to mountain bike, the MiG, I prefer the MiG more than the TK. The MiG is more an all mountain, and because anyway I prefer more float single track, I don't really need an enduro bike.
No.
Because I just bring around a few more kilos with the geometry that is less agile. So for my way of riding, I prefer an all mountain bike. But, the e-mountain bike market is getting, like the car industry is super. There's many segments now, from the very light with the small engine kind of cross country to the downhill.
I think something that's important actually that bike companies need to do is they need to make sure that they emphasize that you don't need to be enduro aggressive and all the time to have a blooming good ride on an e-bike, because unfortunately some marketing and some companies has gone too much enduro, which is quite extreme and not necessarily the mass market doesn't do that. I mean, they just literally ride down gravel roads, little single trails. They like to ride around, and maybe they haven't got mountains in their back garden. You know, they need to. So I think that the MIG style bike should have more emphasis put on the enjoy. I mean, that product it can do that stuff if you really want it to, but it's like it's not the point of it. Yeah. And I think there needs to be a bit more a bit more marketing placed on the sort of the less aggressive product.
Yeah, enjoy your experience, enjoy your day.
I think that needs to be, and the products that help you do that. And I think that's definitely something bike companies could do more, helping people understand how to enjoy it. Because if I show somebody what I do, they look at me like I'm some kind of crazy person, and I'm just you know, and I'm just saying, well, I'm a bike journalist, and they're looking at me like, oh, what's that? You know, and they don't. I say, do you want to come for a ride? And they're like,
maybe not.
You know, and it's like, well, that's not necessary. And I'm like, no, don't worry, we'll take it slow and blah blah blah. We'll go for have a pint of beer or, you know, whatever it is along the way. And it's so that sort of element of e-biking, I think, needs to be, bike companies have to be careful how they position themselves in their different products, because again, the niche, I mean, there is a niche of high performance riders and people use that to sell things, but it's like, at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to be it's not where the mass market is. And I think more time needs to be spent on the enjoyment side, I think.
I totally agree.
And THOK Tribe does that really well, by the way. So
thank you.
Yeah, and so that was your idea. That's great. Anyway, Livio, I think we've covered really a lot. So I'm just really grateful for your time and to having a legend like you talk.
You owe me a beer.
Yeah, because it's really, I mean, just having your insight and frankness is just super important to people listening and understanding how things function. And yeah, anyway, do you have any, I think basically THOKbikes.com is the website, and also if you go to Ducati, they've got
Ducati. You go in the home page of Ducati, go to models, and there's all the motorcycle and e-bikes.
And for anyone who wants to follow you, you can follow you on Instagram. Is it Livio Suppo?
I think, yes.
Yeah, and you've got quite a lot of followers on there, and you keep everyone updated on all the latest things going on in the two-wheeled world. So okay, thank you
very much. Thank you, and see you on the trace.
Yes.
Ciao.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Electric Bike Action Podcast. For the latest reviews and information, visit electricbikeaction.com, subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or Stitcher or Google or wherever you get your podcasts, and give us a rating and review to help spread the word about e-bikes. You can also email me at tonyd@hightorque.com. That's TONYD at hi-torque.com. I'm happy to answer questions and would love to hear your experiences and adventures on e-bikes. This podcast is powered by Callcast.